The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
When you're out on the road, the last place you want to be is on the road. But if the unfortunate happens, you'll be glad you were wearing diamond gussets.
There's a place down in Tennessee where they make blue diamond gusset jeans. They so pride in every stitch, guarantee you'll love the way they fit. They put a diamond gusset in the crotch where you need it most. Blue diamond gussets got it, others don't.
We turn jeans inside out. Diamond gusset jeans. Made in the USA with unparalleled quality. Our Defender motorcycle jeans combine gusset comfort with Kevlar protection, so you can ride all day with confidence. Order yours at gusset.com. Diamond gusset jeans got it. Others don't.
You may be arrested and/or subject to other police action.
Tyranny is here. The grim future foretold in 1984 has become reality.
It really says that the state is God.
The United States is now recognized globally as one of the most oppressive police states on earth. This film conclusively proves the existence of a secret network of FEMA camps, now being expanded nationwide. This documentary exposes how the continuity of government program has established an all-powerful shadow state. Police State 4 chronicles the sickening depths to which our republic has fallen. Prepare to enter the secretive world of emergency dictatorship. Body scanners, sound cannons, citizen spies, stage terror, and cameras on every street corner. It's only the beginning of the New World Order's hellish plan. The police state isn't coming. It's here. Secure your copy today at Infowars.com or see it online in the highest quality at PrisonPlanet.tv.
Steve Shank here with a special alert from eFoods Direct. The stock market continues to crash and recrash daily. Since July, the market has dropped 15% with no signs of recovery. What does that mean to you? When stocks crash, jobs are lost, and you can't buy the food that's already too expensive and continues to raise in cost. eFoods just got notice that wholesale costs on pasta, rice, and beans will immediately jump 20%. The already high cost of sugar is tripling. If you invest in the stock market for security or save money in the bank, you continue to see the dollar drop in value while your weekly food bills increase. So what are you going to do? Get as much food now as you can. With these problems you're facing, eFoods Direct has no choice but to extend the free shipping another week to October 9th. Free shipping buys more food with shipping dollars. Call 800-409-5633 or go to efoodsdirect.com/Alex. Call 800-409-5633 or efoodsdirect.com/Alex. You can bet your life on eFoods Direct.
Toll-free number. We don't normally screen your calls, but occasionally I say I'd like people to call in on a specific subject. Are you part of Occupy Wall Street? Do you agree with my analysis, with the predictions we made about this movement? Or do you disagree? Or do you have another point you want to make? Have you been part of the In the Fed events, now spontaneously popping up all over the country? My dad just called me right before I went back on air a minute ago and said, there's some In the Fed demonstrations in Austin tonight, and that he's heard of others around the country. And he said he texted it to me, but I didn't have time to read it yet, so I'll tell you more about that as it develops. But I'm seeing now In the Fed stuff just happening all over the country. And sometimes there's 10 people, sometimes there's 500. I mean, this is exciting. We need to go after the big 6 mega banks that have been orchestrating the Ponzi scheme to bankrupt this country by design. I mean, I know for a fact the private Federal Reserve goes into local areas and recruits the local wealthy and kind of gives them inside cues and things on how they can avoid what's happening. And I talked to a fella who was at the Houston In the Fed thing Saturday, and he said the name of it. It's one of the big chain funeral homes down there, and that's big money. And he said, yeah, my grandpa owns this big funeral home chain. he got invited to this Houston branch of the Fed, and they had the Fed economist there and told him, this is in confidence, in a dark room with like 20 people, and said, this is how you protect yourself from the coming collapse. And, well, people need to speak out about that. That's how the Federal Reserve has gotten America to go along with this. They go to your local wealthy people who aren't part of the elite, but are at that next level, because the elite know if they don't have the wealthy nouveau riche, the new wealth, they won't get it through. So much of what the CFR, the Federal Reserve, does is about recruiting anybody who pops up. I mean, look, I'm not special that when I was 22 years old and had just been on air for about a year, I had high-power Democratic Party operatives calling me. I had Republican Party operatives calling me. They'd say, well, this will be an off-the-record dinner. And I, as a journalist, I learned that quick, even taking community college, don't give up the source. And then they would just be like, Bill Clinton's good. You ought to come be part of the Democrats. We'll really make you go far. Same thing with the Republicans. It wasn't that I was special. I knew enough about history then to understand that. They were going around to anybody stuck their head up. They come to you, and they say, you want to join this, be part of the winning team. The analogy of that is They Live, where Rowdy Piper gets under the city and sees the aliens that are taking over society, dressed in their suits, and you can only see them if you're wearing your sunglasses, and it's all a bunch of humans in there. And it's all the humans that teamed up with them to sell everybody out. That's the analogy, and you put the sunglasses on. Rowdy Piper's got to beat up the black guy that he befriends to finally make him put the sunglasses on. My dad's calling again, over and over again. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? Okay, it's in Dallas. Well, I couldn't tell. It was 15 seconds before I went live, and you were saying, okay, I got to go. I got to go. Thanks. Man, I tell you, I got to start keeping this phone outside out there. It just rings off the hook. Will you guys come get this and just get it out of here? And Kurt's out here with an obvious question. Come on in, Kurt. Not mad at my dad calling. It's just that I could tell if he's calling it like 5 times earlier. And then again, here you go. He's excited about it in the Fed. What's going on, Kurt?
Just want to know what
they say the name of it. They say the name on the video. In fact, Kurt, just come on in since we're doing this now. Let's just have a discussion in here right now. Go ahead and wheel Kurt a chair in. Go ahead and wheel him a chair in here. This is what goes on behind the scenes around here. We can go ahead and go to this camera over here if it's hooked up, or to that camera right there is probably the robot we want to go to over there on Kurt. Kurt Nimmo in studio with us. This is what happens around here. I ran back during the break to his office on the other side of our aircraft carrier-sized office, and I went over there and I said, listen, we've made a mistake. We've got to correct it, but it's a good mistake. And so I said, I want a headline that head of Federal Reserve Security admits Fed is private. Because yesterday I was there live in the thick of it in San Antonio, where 150 people or so showed up in the pouring down rain. Want to salute all of you from 10 a.m. to noon. And I got back to Austin about 2 o'clock and got up here to get ready for the show. And I told Rob Dew, I said, before you go home, please get me the clip of the cops admitting that the Federal Reserve was private and we had to get off their private property. Now, when the video then got loaded and already named on YouTube as police admit Federal Reserve is private, once I saw it on air, I realized that, and the reason I've got Kurt here is I'd have to tell him this later, so he's just here getting it right now, and then we're going to talk to Kurt about it in a moment, because Kurt immediately saw this is bigger than even the cops saying it's private. We know it's private, but the sheeple were taught for decades by neocon talk show hosts and other that the Fed was federal and that we were liars, and they've got police APBs out and special training manuals saying it is federal. Those that say it isn't are evil. They tell cops this. So I was being laughed at the Dallas Fed by some of the cops saying it was private, even though they had signs up saying private property, keep out, with a big cage around it. I was there trying to expose all of this. And so as soon as I air it yesterday, because remember, I saw it myself live, not on tape. And there's people yelling, screaming. The cops show up. one of them in San Antonio police uniform. And you get used to head cops in plain clothes. That's how it was in Dallas. The head lady cop out there commanding them around, she was public affairs, I guess. You know, she was in plain clothes and looked like, you know, dressed like the security guard head of the feds. So we air it and say police know it's federal. And I even say on the video we're going to play here in a moment, I say, well, wow, you guys know this is private? Cops usually laugh at me about that because your training manuals say it's federal and we're liars. And the San Antonio cop, who's some type of officer, you can see it on his shoulders. I guess we can look it up, Kurt, and find out. I think he was a captain as well or something, or a lieutenant. I think somebody called him a lieutenant. But the point is, I didn't really pay attention. I run over because I'm told, I'm around the corner doing an interview with Matt Medina that we're going to air later about how Occupy San Antonio didn't want us there and doesn't like Ron Paul, and you know, basically told him, yeah, we do just want socialism now. At first, they weren't like that a week and a half ago, but now Move On's running it. They're like, we don't want to talk about the Fed, like Michael Moore said. We want to end capitalism, which is exactly what the monopoly Fed's goal is.
He not only said that they didn't want to talk about it, he said it was irrelevant.
He said it was irrelevant. Move that mic closer to you. And we're going to go to Nemo in a moment, and I'm going to give you the number. But just giving you how big this is, okay, before we play this clip. We're interviewing Medina around the corner under the eave of the Federal Reserve building that looks like a federal building. It's designed to look like a big post office, Gothic federal seals, Gothic lettering, Gothic building, says federal on it. And we're surprised because in Houston and Dallas, the cops showed up. There's no cops there an hour and a half into it. But we see security people up in the windows, up on the third or fourth floor, looking down on us and waving at us. So I'm interviewing Medina, and all of a sudden they go, hey, the cops are here. They're saying it's private property. We got to go. So the idea is, oh, cops are here. So I run around the other side, and you've seen that footage, and I come over to the police officer, the San Antonio police officer in his uniform, and I say, this is private? I heard you just said it's private. And he goes, you've got to ask Captain such and such, and the name's on the video. And I actually looked it up and found that name as the head of Federal Reserve Security down there. You can call him, too, but that is the head of security. And he says, yes, this is private. Please get off the property. If you want to know more, you can call our Dallas head office, which is the head of these 4 states, of all the Federal Reserve branch banks. That's the head Federal Reserve where we were Friday. And so then we say, okay, we'll leave. We agree. We know it's private. And they leave. But I say to the cop, well, officer, you ought to investigate this. Look, it masquerades as a federal building. It says it's federal. It's got what looks like federal seals on it with, you know, eagles. I said, you ought to investigate. And the cop's smiling, going, yeah, you're right. Because the cop at first wasn't really smiling. If you watch this video, and when the head of the Federal Reserve, the head of security says it is private, the cop gets this look and goes, what? Because all these years, you know, this head cop, high-level officers getting the same manuals police have given us where they're told we're liars. Ron Paul's a liar. You know, they tell the Army the Federal Reserve is federal and that we're lying kooks. And so here's this cop, the sunglasses are going on. Here's the head of security of the Federal Reserve telling him, no, we're private. Now get off. And the cop starts smiling, going, what? All these years he's been told that.
Right. I
mean, I had the Dallas cops laughing at me, going, you know, when I'm saying this is not federal, they're like, out here, I'm going to listen to this guy, man. And I'm like, but the sign says private, because they'll have to admit they're being lied to. That's what I mean, folks. It's such a fraud. Fake federal buildings with fake federal seals on it. Of course the cops can't believe we're telling the truth. Because when you admit we're not lying and that we told you the truth, then the dominoes start to fall. And you realize you were bamboozled. It's embarrassing when you get conned. You know, when you go to a magician show, you know, my kids like to go to those sometimes. You know, you tell your kids up front, now this isn't real. But a 5- or 6-year-old will come out and say, Dad, are you sure that wasn't real? They weren't shoving swords through that lady? Or, you know, he didn't really pull that rabbit out? You got to tell them, no, it's sleight of hand. Don't be like children, America. Now, we're going to play this clip in a moment. But when I ran this morning and said we got to correct this, I've watched it a bunch. I've checked the name. That's the head of Federal Reserve Security. That's the Fed. The head of their security says, call our head Dallas office. That's the guy who'd been upstairs and came down. That's the guy whose silhouette we could see up there waving at us. He was there saying, get off the private property. How big is this, Kurt?
Well, it's pretty big. Usually federal buildings have signs saying this is federal property. And then this didn't say that, and he said it was private. So there you go. You have an admission from the head of security that it's not part of the federal government.
Now, Dew hadn't seen his kids in 3